Welcome everybody to Textiles and Tea with the Handweavers Guild of America. I'm Kathy Group and I'm the Advertising and Marketing Manager for HGA, and I get to be your host today. Today, Textiles and Tea is sponsored by Meridian Millhouse, who specializes in high quality undyed yarns. They have cashmere. Go check out this beautiful cashmere blend. See their full line of yarns at meridianmillhouse.com. We will take questions today. Usually it's the last 15 minutes of the hour. So please put your questions in the Q&A and not the chat. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Today, our guest is Kelly Marshall. Kelly is the owner of Custom Woven Interior, and she creates hand-woven textiles for both residential and commercial settings. She designs and weaves rugs and hand wall hangings and table coverings and much more. Her work is characterized by these gorgeous, rich colors combined with wonderful textures. Her work's been featured in a number of magazines like Better Homes and Gardens, Spaces Magazine, and Niche Magazine. Her book, Custom Woven Interiors, is an inspiration in color use and design. And there are actually 18 drafts in there, so you can make some of the things that you see in the book. Welcome, Kelly. We're glad to have you here today.
Hi, Kathy. It's great to be here.
We're so glad. It's wonderful. Great background.
Thank you.
We start with the same question. What is your favorite tea?
I'm having green tea today. Super antioxidant green tea. So
this time of year, you need that.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Well, how did you or why did you start weaving?
Well, I took my very first class when I was in college and at our local Weavers Guild. And just for fun, I thought it would be fun to try. And I wouldn't say it was an immediate love at that time, but then when I went back to school and started taking more classes, I did end up taking a lot of fiber classes. And so weaving was definitely one of them.
Well, great. Good for us. Now, your work really focuses in on rep weave, and I understand that that came from the book Rep, A Guide to Swedish Warp-Faced Weaving. And so what is it about rep weave that makes you passionate about it? What really draws you to rep weave?
Well, I first saw this picture. I opened this book and that's the inside of the cover. And I saw this picture and I love these old-fashioned books. And I had studied in Sweden for a year and learned, I think 19, 20 different kinds of weaving techniques and never did any rep actually. And so when I was looking at this book, I thought it would be fun to try it. And I really liked the snowflake pattern on the far left. And so I just figured out how to do it and I made it in blue and white like that. And that was kind of the start with rep. And I've just really, really loved it. It's expanded with me. I started out just making rugs and now I make table runners, placemats, throw blankets, any kind of textiles for interiors. And I also make tote bags and pillows and upholstery fabric, just all kinds of stuff. And it's just really expanded as I needed to make more things or wanted, or people inquired about more things, then it's really been a great technique that I could use. And I love designing in rep too. It has, it's very geometric that you can do. And I started out with the traditional designs that I was drawn to from my studies in Sweden, but then have continued to expand on different kinds of designs as well.
Well, would you view yourself as an artist or an artisan, or both?
Yeah, I would probably say both. I think I'm an artist in that I do make a lot of my own designs and create them for in particular settings. But I'm also an artisan in that I do the weaving. I, actually make and work on the loom and create these things. So I think I would fall into both categories.
Well, people always argue that question. So I'm always curious to hear from people how they view that. So Thank you for that part of it.
Sure.
Now, the theme of your book is, the name of it is The Cotton Woven Interiors. And it's really neat what you did, because you made a variety of things, but you used your home, kind of like the canvas of your artwork. You used your home to place these things in there. How did you come up with that idea to use that for your book?
You know, I'm not sure exactly how I came up with that initial idea, but I had some pieces. I was designing pieces for the house, and it's a very small house. My house is only 512 square feet. So I just thought, I'm going to create all the textiles for the house. And then I thought, maybe I'll write a book about it. So they just kind of went together, I guess. And it worked out really well. It was very fun project. It was fun to actually see my work and how it's evolved and the different styles and things and how they work together in the house. So I have lots of different styles within one area, and I thought it worked really well.
So you designed for the house and then the book came?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about in the book that you said while you were planning your pieces for your home, that you looked at catalogs, you looked at wallpaper, you looked at books and all kinds of things. So is this always how you design? Are these the inspiration? Because we have an example of a cabinet, and you looked at the door and then you ended up weaving this piece next to it. Is that how you work?
Well, this particular piece was in my arts and crafts line. So kind of inspired by Frank Lloyd Wright and the early 1900s, prairie style, things like that. So I developed a whole line of designs in that style. And I would look to things like windows, stained glass windows, masonry, an iron gate I got a design from, and I would take elements from it that I can use in my weaving, and then of course add the color to it to make it into a rug. So here you can see where I got my idea for this rug by looking at this, the windows on this cabinet here. And I have worked a lot with interior designers. My whole business has been based on custom work. And when I started, my very first job, that established me, was for a designer, and I made 26 rugs for a lake home down in Iowa. And so she came with all kinds of fabrics and, tiles and countertops and different things like that that I would use to design from. So it's kind of always been the way I've created my pieces, is by looking at things in the surroundings.
Well, this next image is perfect then, because I was going to ask you about this, that you are so skilled at designing using the colors for other things to make your pieces. And this is a great example of it, is that this is some upholstery, and that you were able to design this gorgeous rug to match the upholstery. So how did you develop your sense of color? How does that work for you?
Well, I've always loved color, and in college, the color class was my favorite class of all of them, where you just paint little squares and put them together and do gradations of colors. And so I've always really enjoyed playing with color. But when I started weaving, I just find it very interesting to look at fabric samples, because there's often you can pull out the colors, but there's like accent colors, there's maybe background colors, and there's different proportions of colors. So I look at that in the upholstery fabric when I'm designing my piece. And this particular pattern was really fun. I couldn't, of course, do flowers and things like that with rep weave, because everything has to be linear, but I could pull out the grid from the background. And this is a very old piece. This is actually part of that 26 rugs I did for this client. This was their home in Minneapolis, not in Iowa. But so I just did the sketch on graph paper. That was one of my early sketches with colored pencils. But I always do yarn wraps, so I can play with the different colors together. So I'd maybe pull like this. I think there's 16 different colors in this piece. So I probably had 25 or 30 colors that I played with and moved around and to see what colors would work best next to each other. So yarn wraps are really important when I'm doing the designing of a piece.
Well, I'm always amazed because there are some people, Katie Arnold, I'm talking about you, who, when they weave, they just get it. They put colors together that work. And then there's those of us sitting next to her weaving and we're getting mud. So did you find that it just came to you, or did you find that you had to do a lot of trial and error?
I think it kind of came to me. The rep technique, it just kind of worked for me. I once was at a client's home and pulled colors for her. We looked at what the piece was going to be for them. And when I was leaving, she said, "How are you going to put all this together?" And I just said, "Well, that's my gift. That's what I do." And then, I go back and I play with the colors and the pattern, and then I send a sketch to the client so they can approve it. So
That's such a gift.
it
Well,
is.
many of your works are asymmetrical. Now, they're always balanced. They're beautifully balanced, but they are asymmetrical for a lot of them. And this is a good example of some of the designs that you were working on. And you can see they're like stronger on one side than the other, but you balance it off. Can you talk some about your use of balance when you do asymmetrical?
Yeah. I love to play with balance in pieces, and I often like things that are asymmetrical.
Mhm.
So I introduce that, and then there'll be, some people love that and can go with it and play with it. And other people are like, nope, I just like things symmetrical. So
Mhm.
they want it that way. So I often try to push that a little bit. But on the left of the screen, the blue and white one is the beginnings of a design that I was working on for a client. And she is Native American and wanted that style in her piece. And so I looked at Native American beadwork and pulled up some designs and started playing with them. On the left, that was kind of the beginning. And then I did the blue and red rug and presented that to them. And she said she really wanted to play up the lighter colors more. And she was one of those that said, yeah, and I think I would like it to be symmetrical. So on the right is the rug that we did end up doing for her. And the asymmetry, you can balance it with color. So I think even though in the middle piece that is mostly blue, the red does stand out, but it's also strong there where the large area of blue on the other side kind of balances that. So you can do it with color, you can do it with mass of space of another part of a design that will kind of carry the weight to the other side of a piece as well.
Now, I have a design question for you, like a commercial when you do it for a living.
Mhm.
I was going to say, I'll take that blue one. I love that blue one. I love asymmetrical. So would you make that? Did you make that? And then would you sell it, or would that be property of that customer?
Sure, that's a great question. When I make a piece, I always make extra. So the blue one I never did make. I just have the sketch of it, presented it to the client, and we went with the other design. But when I do make a piece for a client, I make a few extra, and those go on my shelf for shows or for exhibits. So I have pieces in stock because I'm constantly doing custom orders. So I don't have time to just make pieces to take on the road with me when I do shows or things like that. But the clients know that there'll be extras or additional pieces made from their design, so they are not exclusive.
Do you ever make small samples to show somebody rather than showing them the whole complete project? Do you ever do small samples first?
I do if they request it.
Okay.
There's an additional charge for that. Most people are fine with the sketch and yarn samples. Yeah.
Well, when you design, you said earlier you were talking about how you colored with pencils. Is that how you design most of the time? It's with hand drawing, or do you use computers, or both?
I use a computer all the time now,
Do you?
which yeah, and it's been a great tool because there's a lot of happy accidents on the computer and it's like, ooh, that looks fun, so it gives me some things that maybe I hadn't thought about, or, when you're just drawing by pencil, you don't necessarily get those little happy accidents there. So I really enjoy working on the computer to do it. And it's great. It's like, just graph paper, and I can mix as many colors, as I want and use them that way too.
Well, I know somebody's going to ask, what software do you use?
I use Stitch Painter by Cochineal.
By who?
Cochineal.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, they also do clothing design
Uh-huh.
software and things like that. Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's basically just a grid. You can use it for knitting or stitching or yeah, all kinds of things. But yeah, it's great because you can capture a design and turn it and twist it and flip it over and repeat it somewhere else. And so it really helps make the process go a lot faster.
She has been very active with HGA too, so glad to hear that. That's a nice combination.
Oh, good. Yeah.
You talked some about inspiration, whether it was like this woman's inspiration was American Indian and other things. What inspires you when you were getting ready to work on something? Is it that you see something and that, oh, I want to make that? Or what's your, or who are your inspirations?
Yeah. I guess I'd have to say my inspiration is oftentimes my clients, because it's what they need in their home. So they'll come with an idea, or maybe they'll just show me a picture of their home or their room, and I'll come up with an idea for them. Or I'll get ideas from their upholstery fabrics or things like that that they're working with, like the one couch that I pulled the pattern from that. So I do a lot of that. I think you have a picture there of a project that I was working on for an art consultant. And I think that might be the next slide, but she was interested in, she hired me to do some textiles for a hospital. And they have this area, this corridor called the cultural corridor. So she wanted different pieces that would represent the clientele that comes to the clinic there. And so I made 6 pieces that had different references. One was African kente cloth was the inspiration for that. Another one was Mayan. So it was a key design and different colors for that to represent a Mayan or Latin American pattern. I did a couple Scandinavian designs, and sashiko is kind of stitching and mung work. So I did that as well, a pattern that was influenced by that. And let's see, oh, a Native American design, another Native American design. So it's really fun to work with my clients, and oftentimes they'll maybe see a design that I have and they'll say, oh, I like that, but can we add more to it or take some away? And so then I work on adjusting the pattern to add and subtract. So it's just really fun to play with it. So my clients have a lot of influence on what I do, and I've developed different styles too. So I have a whole line of contemporary designs as well.
Well, how did you know it was time, or what was the catalyst for you to say, I'm going to do this full time? I'm going to be a full-time artist. Or did you always know you're going to do that?
No, I was a dental hygienist for 10 years. And then I was also going to school studying design and textile design and color and different things like that. And then I went away to school for a year in Sweden and studied textiles and came home, and I thought, oh, how can I make this into a career? Because I was really passionate about it and I just really loved it. So yeah, it wasn't easy. It was a big leap to quit my job. And I just said, whatever I'm going to do is going to be textile related. And I started weaving a little bit. And then I was doing repair work for people and just anything I could find until I finally just got a loom and a studio and started weaving. So it was a big leap. And I was concerned about, because it was something I love so much, I didn't want it to become burdensome. And because I had to make a living at it, I was single till I was 50. So I, always had to support myself. So I have always supported myself with my weaving. And so I gave myself a few years. I still had my my dental hygiene certificate, so I could always go back to that. And after 4 years, I just thought, nope, there's no going back. And I just kind of kept going forward and put all my energy into it. And it's been 29 years now that I've had my business. So
You're so brave. You're my hero. That's amazing. Talk a little bit about going. I'm dying to hear about this. How did you decide to go to Sweden? Talk about being brave. That you went to Sweden for a year. How did you decide you wanted to go, and how did you decide where to go?
Yeah, there was a program. One of my advisors in college told me about a program. Actually, somebody came into the weaving room with a brochure on, and it was called Scandinavian Seminar, and you could study abroad. And I do have Scandinavian heritage, so I thought, well, that would fit. And then I talked to my advisor, and she had gone to Denmark in the same program. And I thought, so I looked into it, and I didn't know Swedish at all. And I had studied a little Spanish and French, I think, in high school, but I didn't know Swedish at all. And she said, oh, you'll be fine. And so I finally stuck the earbuds in and the tape and listened to it on the airplane on the way over there to try and learn some Swedish. But I knew how to say hello and goodbye. So I figured, well, it's just a little bit in between I need to learn. But it was fabulous. It was actually a 2-year program, and I was only there for 1 year. And I got into the second year because I was an older student. I was 26 when I went. And so they thought I would fit in better in the second year. And it was just phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I loved the immersion into the Swedish culture. And it was like a community college. And I lived right at the school, which was a treat for me because I'd always had my own apartment and cooked my own meals, so I could go down for meals, and I could have 24/7 access to the looms and hang out with other students, the fiber students there. So it was really a dream come true. It was so much fun. And then I got enough credit in that year abroad. It was kind of like my electives, and I finished up my degree then in textile design. So that was part of it too.
What was the focus of the study over there? Was it certain weave structures or just weaving in general, or?
Yeah, we went through about 21 different weave structures over the year. And then I also learned to make bobbin lace, and I'm a teacher. I do teach bobbin lace making. And we did some different kinds of embroidery. I took a ceramic class, and we did natural dyeing. So we'd go out in the forest and collect mushrooms and different things and do dyeing in the fall. That was super fun. So it was all fiber related, and we did some fabric printing too. Yeah, I remember that was one of the first classes, and all of a sudden everybody left, and I'm like, where did everybody go? Because my Swedish wasn't very good at the time. And the teacher looks at me and she goes, fika. And then that's how I learned what fika is. And that's like coffee break. And they have one at 10 o'clock and at 2 o'clock, and everybody just disappears.
Okay, we should have called this Textiles and Fika.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's amazing. I love your adventuresome that you went over there for a year to learn. What an experience.
It was a wonderful experience, and I did learn the language too. So that was really fun. So I could communicate with my friends and colleagues and things. So it was great.
Well, what would you say is the most difficult part of weaving or being a full-time artist for you?
Even after all these years, I still really love what I do, which is great. I think the hardest part of it is just wearing so many hats. I love the designing and the weaving, and that kind of comes natural to me, but you know, you have to do marketing and you have to do exhibits and shows and traveling, and you have to do technical stuff on the looms and do loom repair. And I do have a few assistants and employees that work with me, so I have to know about HR and different things like that. So sometimes that can be a little overwhelming, but it's also part of what I love about it is that it keeps me learning and growing all the time too. So as much as it is challenging at times, it's also, I think, very interesting. And I do enjoy that part of it too.
Well, I'm always curious when I talk to artists to ask them, other than your loom, what is probably the next most important tool for you?
That would be my warping reel. It's a 4-yard or 12-yard warping reel.
How tall is this?
It's probably 6 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So
Did you make it?
No, I bought it used actually, and I can't imagine how many yards, how many miles of warp it's wound. And then I have tensioners on the wall too that help tension the warp as I wind it.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, that was an early find, and it's great. It's worked well for me all these years, and I just wound a warp on it this morning. So
So you do all your own warping?
I do, and I have help in my studio too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you dye?
No, I use pearl cotton. So I buy it in all different colors. But one of the things that I really love to do is to blend colors. So when I thread my loom, I thread, and this is a little bit technical, but I always put 2 threads through each heddle, and those 2 threads make up one color. So when I'm designing, a lot of my colors are blended like that. And sometimes the colors might be really close, like 2 greens that are really close that just give a nice subtle variation there, or it might be 2 colors that are very different. And so it adds more contrast. And so I think that adds a lot of depth and interest to the weavings as well.
Well, I read that in your book and I was like, that's interesting. I've not heard that before. Now I understand better that you've explained that. That's great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, we have some questions from our audience. Shall we take some questions from them?
Sure. Sounds great.
Okay. This is from Gail Valance. What are the yarns and fibers that you prefer for rep weave? And this isn't exactly how she asked it, but I'm going to add something to it. Do you do different yarns for like a rug versus a wall hanging versus a pillow kind of thing?
Yeah, well, that's what I really love about the rep weave, because you can set up the warp or with this one kind of yarn, and I use 5/2 pearl cotton. And I can, depending on the weft I use, I can use a thick weft and it's a rug, or if I make the weft a little thinner, then it's a good size for table runners and placemats. Or if I use an even smaller weft, then it's an upholstery fabric. So often after, when I design something, say I'm making a rug for someone, then on that same warp setup, I can also make pillows that will coordinate with their piece then for the sofa or for the bed and things like that.
So your warp is the constant and the weft changes.
The size of the weft changes.
Oh,
so
okay.
there's 2 wefts in the rep weave, a thin and a thick.
Excuse me.
Bless you. So the thick one is the one that you can vary to make it different sizes. And that's been really nice that it works throughout the whole thing. And I chose cotton because I love the colors. As you can see, it just, you get a nice bright colors, and also, you know, I do a lot of things with neutrals as well, but and it's washable. I'm a very functional person, so a lot of times people do hang my work, but it's also very functional, meant to go on the floor, so, or on the table or on the bed, you know. So cotton is very easy to care for and wash. So I chose the cotton. And initially when I learned about rep, historically it was done with linen, and linen was just too expensive and didn't quite have the color selection to, so I have used cotton instead.
Have you found that you being able to get the yarns you want and need has changed over the years since you've been weaving? Has
Oh
it
yeah.
changed your choices?
Well, not my choices so much, just finding it has changed, or colors get discontinued, or manufacturers go out of business. So it's always a challenge. Last time I called one of my reps, I said, I need some more weft. And he said, no, we're not doing it anymore. And I just was like, oh my gosh, what? So it's always a challenge to find the materials I need as well.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. Well, Karen Holloway was asking, what do you use for thick warp threads? And she wanted to know if you ply yarns together for that. So it sounds like you ply the weft to get
Yes.
the thicker yarns.
Yep. The warp is all 5/2 Pro cotton.
Okay.
So the weft I use for just a upholstery fabric. So a thinner weight would be just one strand of like a 4/4 cotton or sugar and cream. A lot of people are familiar with that. That's great to use. Or you can use multiple strands of that. 3 strands of that is good for a placemat or table runner. And then I use 5 or 6 for a rug. Now I have other wefts that I use that I have made for me, but that's a great thing that people can get pretty readily at Joann's or Michael's or something like that too.
Felicia Sloves wants to know, how many shafts do you normally use to weave your rug patterns, and how wide is your loom?
Well, the patterns all vary. So I have patterns anywhere from 4 to 16 shafts. And then I have 5 looms, and let's see, I have 3 AVL rug looms. So I have a 4-foot, a 6-foot, and a 12-foot. So I can go up to 12 feet wide. And then I have a Glamocra countermarsh that I do. I do a lot of table runners and smaller rugs on that. And then I also have an AVL production Dobby loom that I weave blankets on. So the blankets are, here's a blanket back here. They're nice and soft and drapey. So it's a slightly different technique, but it still has, it's warped face designed, but it's more of a balanced weave. And it still has a thick and thin weft. So I can use, all my patterns can translate into a blanket as well. So still with the cotton, those are 100% cotton.
Well, I have to ask, do you have something on all those looms all the time? Or do you do one project and then go to the next one? Or do you go from loom to loom to loom?
Oh, the looms are pretty much full all the time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I have anywhere 5 to 15 projects in the works at any time.
And you can go from one to the other to the other?
Yep. Yeah.
That's great.
Depending on the project and what we need to get done. Yeah. And like I said, I do have help on my looms too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, Janet Colm wants to know, do you do double weave, rep weave?
I've never tried that. I have not done that. It would be fun to try that.
Your next book. There you go. Joseph Beckman says, oh, he said, no, please get technical. I'm not sure what you meant by that. Sheila O'Hara said, great color combination with the upholstery. And she wanted to know if the yarn was cotton.
Yes. The warp is all cotton. The weft is a 50-50 cotton and poly blend.
Okay. And a lot of these questions you've been answering. Somebody was asking about, do you dye your own cotton? And you've answered that. Well, people are asking about where you get your yarn. Do you get that in the United States, or do you have to go outside the US? Or
no, I use there's 3 companies mostly that I get my warp from, and I do webs. So some of their colors I use UKI or Supreme, which is a wholesale company now. So yeah, so I have to order it in large quantities. I used to be able to order a cone at a time. Now I have to order 20 pounds of each color I want. So
oh, wow.
yeah, but you can get that yarn at like Yarn Barn and different retailers too.
Mhm.
And then I also buy Silk City Fibers yarns, and they have the 5-2 Pro Cotton as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So between those three companies, I have like 250 different colors that I work with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Eileen Lee wants to know, do you use a special sewing machine to sew your upholstery fabrics?
Yes and no. I have just a regular sewing machine that I do my hems on. And then for bags, I do use an industrial machine.
Oh, okay. But you do the sewing yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're a very talented woman.
Well, I limited sewing. This is one of my bags, so I know how to sew bags and hems, and that's about it.
Can you do the pillows?
Nope, I have somebody else that does the pillows for me. One of my weavers. Yeah.
Mary Seeger wants to know how many, oh, there's a pillow.
Yeah, here's a cute pillow. They all have zippers in them, and then I put different fabric on the back.
Is that cotton on the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep. So these are all washable too, which is great. Has a zipper in it so you can remove the insert and wash them.
Mary, I lost her. Uh-oh. Mary, I think it's Seeger. How many shafts were necessary for that rug based on the Frank Lloyd Wright style cabinet door?
I'm thinking 8. I don't know right off the top of my head though.
Okay.
Yeah, she could email me and I could tell her for sure.
Okay.
But mhm.
Which number of shafts do you find you use the most?
A lot of them are 8. I have one popular design that has 6, and otherwise 8 and 10. 8 to 10 is
Okay.
pretty popular. Yeah.
Natalie Belonga, I love this question. What suggestions do you have for avoiding thread tangles at the heddles when you have warped multiple colors? Because with rep weave, you really have to increase your warp ends per inch, right?
Yes, I run 48 ends per inch. So it is a lot of warp, and I always warp front to back. So if you're inclined to do it back to front, that's probably easier. Then you can just wind it on through the rattle and not have to worry about going through the reed and heddle. But I always do it that way. I learned front to back, and that's just kind of what I do. But it does get snarly. If you can wind your warp really tightly when you're, putting it on the warping board or warping reel, that does help. Let's see, what else? Yeah, shorter warps. Oh, another little trick I do is I separate my harnesses. So I put a couple sticks in between every other harness. So one's up and one's down, one's up, one's down. And that just helps the threads to separate a little bit more, to flow through the heddles and the harnesses more easily.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the pricing model for commissions? What percentage do you request up front?
Yeah, the pricing, I don't have a good formula for that. It just keeps going up when my prices go up or when the yarn goes up. But so that one is always kind of hard to figure out. But I do have a square foot price that I do for custom. And then I have a lower price for the things that I have in stock already made. And then let's see, what was the other question? She wanted to know about pricing and something else in there that I didn't address.
The percentage you keep up front.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So whenever I take an order, I do a request 50% down.
Oh, okay.
Or they can do, if they want to see the sketch and yarn samples first, I just charge for that. So I charge $50 for the sketch and yarn samples. And when they buy, if they go ahead and purchase the rug, that's included in the price of the rug. But if they want to get on the schedule, then it's 50% down. And then I can go ahead and order yarn and get it into the works, get the project going.
Well, I'm curious because it sounds like the design process I mean, I would love just to sit down with you and you and I would work out my design I want done and everything.
Take my
So
class. Take my class.
if you were working with a client, did you mostly do one-on-one in person and that had to change because of COVID? Or do you do the same thing pre-COVID, post-COVID? Designing with your customers?
Right. I probably did a lot more in person pre-COVID, but I also have clients all over the country. So,
Yeah.
well, that I meet at shows all over, the country. So then we're just sending things to each other. So they'll send me paint chips to give me an idea of colors. That's a good way for me to see the colors that they're working with. Or they'll send me their upholstery, if I'm making a rug for their living room, they might send me a sample of their couch fabric or something. And then I mail the sketch and yarn samples to them.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was asking, what is the name of the Swedish school again? That's Beth Wrench.
Oh, the school I went to was called Forsa. It is a folk high school. And it's in Forsa, Sweden. It's about 4 hours north of Stockholm on the Baltic Sea. Yeah, but I'm not sure. I think they've gone virtual on all their weaving program now, which is too bad.
Becky Williams wants to know, does Rep Weave require a heavier loom? She has an 8-shaft baby wolf, and would that be strong enough to do Rep Weave?
Sure. You can do Rep Weave on a baby wolf, and we use that a lot at workshops, but I wouldn't recommend doing rugs on it. Maybe 1 or 2, but not regularly to do rugs. But you could do some table runners in Rep. You just can't quite pack it as hard as you want to, or it's just really hard on the loom. So yeah, I definitely recommend a floor loom. And I actually put like 15 to 20, 35 pounds of extra weight on my beaters to really pack in, the weft. The
I always
AVL,
wondered how much weight. I wasn't putting in nearly enough.
yeah.
I have to up my weight there.
The AVL rug looms come with the weight on the beater already. So, but my other looms, I added it to them.
Karen asked, if you thread 2 ends through the heddles, how do you determine the ends per inch?
It's 48 ends per inch. So I use a 12 dent reed and 4 threads through each dent and then 2 through each heddle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have time for other textiles? This is from Michelle O'Reilly. Or does your business take all your time? And she wants to know if you'll be teaching in 2021 on the East Coast.
Well, I'd be happy to teach. I don't have anything scheduled yet. So if you have a guild, talk to them to contact me to set something up. So, I'd love to do the teaching. And what was the first part of that question?
No, do you have time to do what you want to do rather than just
sure. Yeah, I do a lot of different fiber techniques. So I love to knit and I do the bobbin lace. I just started a huge bobbin lace project, which will probably take me 10 years to do. And I love to embroider and all different kinds of fiber work I like to do.
Somebody wants to know, and I don't know if you have something at hand, that they want to see the back side of one of your rugs. Is it different? Great. They want to know, is it different?
Sure, they do. They can be different. So this one, you see more of the blues on this side, and then when you turn it over, the green really shows up. So depending on the pattern, they can look quite different from one side to the other.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is one of the traditional designs that I learned that's actually out of that book. So this is one of the patterns that I pulled from the inside cover of that book, and I've used it for years and years now.
You talk about how linear Rep Weave is, but you have a lovely way of having curves, like on the edge of that. It just, from a distance, you have that lovely way of making curves. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, this one, especially has curves. It has circles in it. And this design was initially influenced by the Oleana sweater. There was an exhibit at the University of Minnesota that I went to, and they had a sweater with a big flower, red and orange flowers. So I pulled the red and orange from it and looked for a circle pattern and found one in an old, actually it was a museum in Sweden, and I found the pattern. That's in my book too, but that's where that design originated for me anyway. So you can get circles.
Let's see. Somebody wants to know, when you wash your rep weave, like placemats, how do you wash them? What do you have to do to be careful and take good care of them?
Yeah, I recommend cold water wash in the washing machine and line dry. So they're very easy to care for. The blankets can go right in the dryer, and so they're wash and dry. But cold water for sure to preserve the colors. Yes.
Phyllis wants to know, are you going to start teaching again when the pandemic's gone?
Yes, I'm going to be teaching in, let's see, October. I'll be out in Denver, and then we'll see for next year. I'll be teaching more next year.
Robert Sobich is interested in hearing about your studio. Are you still in Northrop King building?
Yes, I am. Yeah. I love my studio. It faces east, so I have floor to ceiling windows practically, and a lot of light, and I have all my yarns out so I can see them all the time. And this is a great building. There's almost 300 artists in our building, so it's a really nice community here. And we do have openings, although last year we didn't have any openings in the building, but my studio is open to the public. And so I do have people come in to purchase things and to see the weaving. And so it's fun. It's a nice community here.
How do you keep your project notes? Do you just write by notes by hand? Do you have them on your computer? I think that's what she's asking, but how do you keep your project notes?
Yeah, I have a formula for my yarn calculations. So every project has a sheet, and I have tons of 3-ring notebooks now with all my plastic sleeves in them. So every project has a plastic sleeve, and I keep my weave drafts in there. They're sketches. So my sketches is also my draft. And so each file has everything in there. So I have every piece I've ever made. I still have the weave notes for it. So I know exactly what yarn I used, how much, and the colors. Yeah, and how to weave it.
Where are you going to be teaching in Colorado?
The Rocky Mountain Weavers Guild.
Oh, okay. Somebody was asking.
Yeah.
They want to know how to sign up. So there you go, Anne. You can sign up. And let's see. A lot of people are asking how-to questions, and I would encourage them to, one, get your book.
Yeah.
A lot of this is answering
questions.
Take your workshop, and contact you. Now, some people are asking about how they would contact you to like book a workshop. Can they get that information on your website?
Yes, they can get my contact information there, and there is information there about the workshops, different things that I offer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just answered that one. How do you weave the hems?
So the hem, I just use my thin thread. So usually I used to use 22 cotton, but I can't get that so much anymore. So I use a 10-2 Pro Cotton, and I just weave that with the hem is just the thin weft. Yep. And then I double fold it and sew it on the sewing machine. I used to do fringe, but that fringe is always the first thing to wear off. So unless somebody requests fringe, I don't do that anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Debbie Bailey wants to know, are you going to be at Convergence?
No, I'm not going to be at Convergence. Yeah.
Well, you're always invited. We would love to have you there.
Oh, thank you.
And Diane wants to know, are you going to do any Zoom lectures specifically around designing?
I don't have anything planned for that.
But
Yeah,
it could be set up, couldn't it?
could be. It's always a possibility.
Yeah, one more question. Do you see any relationship between bobbin lace and weaving? And what type of bobbin lace do you teach? And that's from Gertrude.
Great. Yes, definitely. Actually, I think bobbin lace was started because of weaving. So at the end with the fringe, somebody just started playing with it, and that's how the different stitches and things were developed. So there's actual stitches within bobbin lace that are called the weaver stitch, because it goes over one, under one, over one, under one. So it is very much like weaving. And but you use a lot of threads, and it can be fine, it can be heavier too. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with it, but definitely relates to weaving.
Somebody wanted to know, what is the turnaround time between order and delivery? I'm assuming that depends on what you've ordered.
It depends on how much backlog I have. So right now I'm out about 4 or 5 months on any custom piece. So not necessarily the size, although it would take longer on the loom, of course, to make a bigger piece. Yeah.
Somebody was asking if they just got an AVLK series and wants to know, is it possible to use that for, I don't know what that is. So would that be possible to use that for rug making?
I'm not sure. I don't know that loom.
So. Okay. Sorry, Lynn, we don't know what that loom is.
Yeah.
But again, you can email her and she will be glad to talk to you about that. All right. How did you decide to write a book, and at one point in your design career?
Well, there's kind of a fun little story that went with that. When I was just started my weaving career, I used to go to see a psychic every year, like at the beginning of the year, just to kind of get an idea for the new year. And she said to me once, "You're going to write a book." And I just thought, oh, wow, she's really off on that one. But it just kind of got filed in the back of my head. And then I was, many years later, I was taking a class called The Artist Way. And there's a workbook to go through it, and it kind of helps you with your creativity and different things like that. And the teacher, one of the things that came up with it for me was writing the book. And it popped up again, and I'm like, wow. And so it wasn't until I was like 20 years into my career that I actually thought I had something to write about, and realized it was rep, because that's the only thing I really know much about. And the woman that was teaching the class was also a writer and a personal coach. So she actually coached me and helped me. And as much as I thought I could never write a book, she made the process very easy. And we had a great time working together on it. And that's kind of how it all evolved. I said, well, when I was 40, it came up that I was going to write a book. And I said, when I turn 50, I'm going to write the book. And I did.
What a great story. That's awesome. I love that.
It was very fun.
Well, I can't believe it, but our hour is up. It's been wonderful talking with you today, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. It's my pleasure.
It's so nice because I just loved your book and your work. And so to finally get to sit here and talk with you, it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Now, if y'all want to know more about Kelly and sign up for those workshops, have her come do a workshop for you, please go to her website at kellymarshall.com. And again, a special thank you to Meridian Mill House for their sponsoring today's Textiles and Tea. See their full line of gorgeous yarns at meridianmillhouse.com. And because they are starting to offer their cashmere blend, they are offering a 5% off for the yarn. Tell them that you're from Textiles and Tea. You heard it here. And if you would like to sponsor a Textile Tea episode, or your guild or your business, you can learn more on our website at weavespindye.org. Today, Textiles and Tea is sponsored by the generous donations to the Fiber Trust. If you would like to see more programming like this, please support HGA by becoming a member or donating, or both, at weavespindye.com. If you missed part of this episode, or you'd like to watch it again, or you want to watch it with a friend, all the Textiles and Tea episodes are recorded, and you can watch them on the HGA Facebook page. You do not have to have a Facebook account to watch. I have to let you know that someone called the office the other day and said their afternoon on Tuesday, as her neighbor comes over, they get their cup of tea and they watch Textiles and Tea. So I loved hearing that. Hi guys, thanks for watching. I hope you'll have a great week. Next Tuesday, we are going to have Jacqueline James. She's a weaver out of the United Kingdom, and she does beautiful things with color. We'll be excited to have her here next week. So have a great week, and we'll see you all next Tuesday. Happy tea.